Welcome into the newest episode of the YHH Junior Hockey Pod. We got some hot off the press news to talk about today, including some World Junior A Challenge rosters, some players having some good seasons and some good weekends, and plenty more. But for the pod, my name is Sydney Wolf, joined as usual by Peter Rodney and Drew Steele. You guys, it is November. It feels pretty chilly. I don't know if any of you saw the Northern Lights last night. But it's been a pretty fun past week here for hockey. We got a lot of things going on. Peter, did you do anything interesting, fun, notable over the last week here?
Over the last week, no. I got texted by 3 different people asking if I saw the Northern Lights, and I did not see the Northern Lights. I ran outside after getting the text, and yeah, I didn't see anything. But no, I haven't done anything too crazy. Girls' high school season's in full swing, so I took in a doubleheader on Saturday, but I've been keeping up with the World Junior A Challenge rosters and everything to do with junior hockey, so I'm excited to get rolling this week.
Nice. Drew, how's it going? How was the weekend, and how are the Caps doing?
Yeah, 5-point weekend. Back to the winning ways, so not a bad problem there. Wish he could have got Friday, take a 6-point weekend away, but Caps are good. I'm sure. Did you guys get snow this week too? We had snow on the drive back on Saturday, so the roads were bad on Saturday, and they were really bad yesterday morning. My roads here in Wanakee. If the officials here in Wanakee want to fix our roads, I'd be all for it. We had sheer ice yesterday morning. Took me a little bit extra to get to work, but now it's supposed to be 60 on Saturday. So 5 seasons in action here in Wisconsin. I'm sure back home too.
Yeah, as the northernmost person here in St. Cloud, I think we got a couple of light snowflakes, but nothing that did any crazy road conditions or anything. Just a couple of nice snowflakes, but it is pretty chilly here. But we do got some fun news to talk about today. Actually, the day that we're recording, the World Junior A Challenge roster was released, and you might also hear the label U.S. Junior Select Team. Like, goes under a couple different labels. It's not the regular World Juniors roster. I know every year some people get confused a little bit between like regular World Juniors and the World Junior A Challenge. So different guys. Just for some context, this is going to be December 7th through 13th in Quebec. So it's in a little less than a month here coming up. And there were 10 Minnesotans named to the roster, and we can talk about them. But the Minnesotans, I'll just run through them quick. Gunnar Conboy, who we'll talk about, just returned from injury. Caleb Heal, is that how he's saying his name?
Heil.
Or Heil now. I know it's changed a couple times over the years. Danny Clares, Bodie Leyland, Garrett Lindbergh, Maceo Phillips, also who I believe returned from injury fairly recently. Carson Pilgrim, Ashton Schultz, Brent Solomon, and John Stout. Drew, you got any inside info on a couple of these guys? I know we got some Caps on the roster.
Yeah, team's led by Andy Brandt too, which I know not a Minnesotan, Wausau, Wisconsin, but I'm talking with Andy. He's been excited for this for a while. The Brent Solomon tweet that went out on YHH earlier today. I'll reveal my sources. It was Brent's mom. Had a suite with the Capitals and couldn't make it to the game anymore because her kid was playing in a tournament with USA Hockey. We've been sitting on that one for a couple days, though, so if anybody's got a real issue with that, they can dial me up, and really it's Brent's mom's fault, not mine. But, yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool always just to see the recognition. In my opinion, this tournament now with the CHL being able to go play college hockey, it should be between the U.S. and Sweden, to be honest with you, because the top kids in Canada aren't playing junior A anymore. They're playing major junior. So that's one thing where the U.S. is trying to defend the gold medal here. A couple of these guys are returning from the roster last season. That one, I can confirm John Stout and Caleb Heil. I'm sure there's others in that mix too. I cover the Caps, so I'm going to know more about the Caps. Caleb Heil, here's a fun one for you. 5-0 in across 2 different tournaments. This will be his 3rd World Junior A Challenge. So not World Juniors, but he's still tearing it up representing the Stars and Stripes, and excited to see the tournament just happen because it is cool recognition, but it's also cool in our league to get to see these kids step up while these other kids are gone. Like I remember Austin Bernovic during this stretch in 2023 is when he really started to put the gas pedal on that year. because all the top players across the league are gone. You can start to gain that confidence, and you can be the USHL forward of the week because 12 forwards that are towards the top of the league are gone. I think it's cool that teams are still sending their players to this event. I wouldn't be shocked if there were teams that said no at points, right? Like you look at this and it's something where it's an honor for your player to get to go and play, but I wonder if that was something that was an issue, right? There's a couple of notable Minnesotans and just names in general that I'm surprised aren't on this list. Cooper Simpson, I would think, would be an automatic invite for a lot of teams. And whether he got invited, whether he didn't, I would think that that would be a name that you'd want with you. But still super cool regardless.
I wonder what it's the striking the balance for the USHL franchises of wanting to have their best players in the lineup, but also wanting to be able to tell prospective players like, hey, 3 of our guys just played for Team USA. How cool is that? Like what an advertisement for Madison, Caleb, and John are.
Yeah, we had 5 last year, so like it's even crazy to have your head coach go and serve. You have 2 again this year, so yeah, I mean, like it's something that it's sweet for those players to get to experience because some of these guys might not ever go and play at a World Juniors. They might not go play at an Olympics or a World Championships, but to get to put the USA logo or diagonal, however they decide to do it for the Olympics. Who knows? But it's always a cool experience and something to represent your country. It's always sweet to do.
100%.
Yeah, and another Minnesotan too on the staff going to be Hank Johnson as well, who's currently with Fargo. That's a Minnesotan there, so you can add him. I believe he went to Breck, so shout out. Otherwise, that's the World Junior A Challenge roster. Whenever that happens, I'm sure we'll kind of give some updates as that goes on and kind of some standouts from that tournament. But we had a couple of players do pretty well over over the past weekend here. And Drew, I don't know if you'll have any insight into this since it involves some Caps players here. But Max Ryder, I saw, had a pretty nice overtime game winner here recently. And we also saw too, and previously mentioned Gunnar Conboy's back for Green Bay now. And I saw Maceo Phillips is back in the lineup as well. So kind of a big weekend with a lot of guys.
Yeah, it was cool to have the return from Maceo Phillips and Gunnar Conboy was here. So I got to witness that. Maceo just seems cool, calm, and collected a lot of the time. You can tell he wants to get under players' skins, which is kind of fun to see because that's like the NTDP. They always play with the cage, so they never have to back it up. So you can start to build those tendencies. But sometimes when they take the cage off and it's just the shield, they kind of shy away from that. So it's cool to see him back in the lineup and still trying to get under people's skins. Conboy, you wouldn't know by watching that he was 16 years old. That was my first time ever seeing him live. He's the bigger frame. Like he wasn't afraid to get to the dirty areas. Like I think he took a penalty each game that they played the Caps this weekend. They played Friday, Sunday. Really weird schedule this week for Madison. We played Friday at home, Saturday on the road, Sunday at home against Green Bay. Saturday was in Cedar Rapids, so it's like completely away from it. But yeah, you mentioned Max Ryder's game winner. Caps were down 2-0 in that game, and 2 unanswered in the third. Nolan Gertis tied in Bergeson with the goals in the third period, so a couple Minnesotans scoring to tie it up for Madison, and then the Caps win in overtime with Ryder with the finish there. And Ryder's been really good for Madison this season. Last year, didn't play a whole lot. I think he played in 35-ish games, I want to say, somewhere in that mid-30s range. Played a lot more down the stretch, but this season he's really taken that jump forward. He's just kind of been an animal on the ice, right? Like he's that type of guy who's the top category in everything on the off-ice testing. He's one of the most skilled players too, and I think it's all like coming together this year for him. So it's nice to see that. I know he just made his commitment too, but yeah, the overtime game winner. I always worry because I'm the broadcaster for the team that my calls are just going to be brutal after. So like as soon as I go off air, I'm going over and I was like, all right, it wasn't terrible. Like I'm okay with it. So we'll take it. We'll take it. Minnesotans succeeding.
Yeah, that's a lot of Minnesotans with some big weekends. And I know, Drew, you had some funny moments with Green Bay playing Madison and stuff. And I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about it and some equipment manager or non-equipment manager situations.
Yeah, I don't know how many times you see an assistant coach slash equipment manager on a line chart, but Green Bay's got that going for him right now. And I heard it was kind of a rough Friday evening for him. The most public one, Gunnar Convoy, made his USHL debut. Supposed to be number 17 for the Gamblers this season. His USHL debut was made with a no name bar number 7 jersey. I would take a guess that the number 17 jersey didn't make it out of the Rush Center. So that's a tough look there for his debut. But yeah, I don't know how many teams in the league have that assistant coach slash equipment manager, or how many equipment managers are wearing suits. That would actually be the fact I would want to know. Because like most of like our equipment managers like wearing like a team pullover and like nice pants, so he's not like dressed down, but you can tell that he's not the coach on the team.
Yeah.
So definitely interesting to see the suits putting the stick over the wall, trying to get the EQ assist.
Try not to put a dent in that Breitling watch while you're throwing the stick over the boards.
I'd be worried about Fat Man in a little coat situation, throwing it over the wall and ripping the back.
It's like a big rip on the back of the JCPenney suit.
It'd be different if you're playing at the Pine City Civic Center where there's just a wall behind you, like no one's gonna see it. But you're playing with like people right behind you. Like I would be my worst nightmare with the suit coat.
Just get roasted for the rest of the game.
I'm a sweater guy. I always go shirt, tie, sweater.
Shirt, tie, sweater. That's solid. I read an article maybe a couple of years ago about equipment managers in the NHL, and they asked him like, "What do you wear on the bench?" And the dude said, "Team quarter zip, Lulu ABCs." Every game, he wears the same thing every game.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
believe it.
Drew, I don't know how much you know about equipment managers on teams in the USHL, but kind of in your experience, does it kind of vary drastically, like team to team, of like, level of involvement, or if they have somebody or don't, or I don't know how much you know about that or not, but do you have the kind of equipment guys and USHL teams?
I think like because there's certain standards set by the league and by USA Hockey to be a tier 1 category team. I think each team has to have an equipment manager. So that's like where the assistant coach slash equipment manager kind of made me giggle a little bit when I saw that after the 17-7 debacle. But every team's got their own jersey provider. So that's like the one area where equipment managers can like kind of make a difference. But other than that, like Bauer comes in with a big deal. No free ads, but Bauer comes in and has gloves, helmets, pants, sticks as part of the deal, where they get a certain number and teams have to use Bauer for sticks throughout the year. So I'm very interested just to like, there shouldn't be too much of a discrepancy. Like besides the jerseys, everything should be similar across the board. I know Patrick in Cedar Rapids, shout outs, no free shout outs, but shout outs to Patrick in Cedar Rapids. I worked with him. He was with the Austin Ice Bats, NA3 for a bit as an assistant coach. Then he's made the switch to equipment manager. He's not the equipment manager slash assistant coach in Cedar Rapids. He spent the year in Corpus too. So shout out Patrick, but not assistant coach slash EQ in Cedar Rapids, just the EQ. I can confirm Chase Parlier, the equipment manager of the Madison Capitals. Cam Batty, the former equipment manager of the Caps, is now in the ECHL at Trois Rivières, which is where the World Junior A Challenge is going to be. So nice little tie in there.
Nice. Perfect. Awesome. Well, before we keep going here, I wanted to make sure to thank our sponsors. Obviously, the USHL. We've already been talking about them plenty. We love the USHL. Love to shout out our USHL guys as well. And we've got plenty of Minnesotans tearing it up. We're going to talk about some of them here. But obviously, we love the USHL, and we're going to talk a little bit too about any changes to guys who may or may not be coming back. But big thanks to USHL for sponsoring this show, along with APX Hockey. For all your training, development, and advising needs, you can go to apx-hockey.com, or you can click on the news tab and find all of my news stories and databases. I got a good amount of girls features out right now to get you hype about the girls' high school season, and I got some good commitment features coming your way as well, including I should have one on Carter Ernst next week at some point. So,
First line center for the Rough Riders this past weekend.
I know, yeah, tearing it up, and we'll talk about him a little bit more here later, but a couple of other guys that are tearing it up. I saw recently that Drew Stewart's having a nice season. He had a hat trick for, I want to believe it was Muskegon last week against Des Moines. He's a guy, too. I kind of forgot he flipped his commitment because he was Notre Dame for a while.
Long time.
Yeah, and I want to say now he's a Dartmouth commit. I don't really remember when it flipped. I want to say it was at some point last season, but I know he was Notre Dame for a long time because I remember I talked to him when he committed a long time ago, and that was like probably 3 or 4 years now. It's been a while, but saw that, so that's cool. And we might as well take a look at standings and top scorers too, just to kind of look at everything. But it's not super different from last week. Obviously, we got a couple Minnesotans on the top scorers still with Cooper Simpson, who we already mentioned. He's in second in overall points right now. And then we got a couple other guys too, like Brent Solomon obviously is up there for Minnesotans. And then if you go down the list, I believe the next highest one would be Tyden Bergeson and Drew Stewart. So talked a lot about those guys already, and Malachi McKinnon's not too far down either. So some Minnesotans there, and then the standings. I'm not going to read off every team or anything. But again, the East has a lot more points than the West, as we've previously mentioned. Muskegon's at the top for the East. And then Dubuque, Youngstown, and Chicago all have more points than the top in the West in Fargo and Sioux Falls. Kind of crazy to see that it's so skewed. I don't know. Like, obviously, I follow the USHL, but not crazy closely with the standings every year. Drew, I don't know if every season there's kind of like one conference or the other that's better, or if this is just kind of a weird year. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of teams that have been solid for like multiple years in a row now in the East. So I'm not surprised to see them continue. I also just wonder with Waterloo's leadership change. Des Moines just had a leadership change recently too, with new coaching staff coming in. Tri-City, same. So a lot of these people probably trying to get their feet underneath them in the early parts of the year. But yeah, you mentioned all the top four teams all have more points than the first place team. The seventh place team in the Eastern Conference would be tied for first in the Western Conference right now. So
Yeah.
it's skewed to say for sure. There, it's a wild stat where the Caps win in overtime on Sunday, and then I see we'd be in first place. Like when the power rankings come out, the USHL's doing the top six teams were Eastern Conference teams last week.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's wild. That's pretty crazy. And then obviously the NTDP has the least amount of points, but that's never too shocking, obviously.
No.
But some other Minnesotans doing pretty well. We got a couple of defensemen with a lot of points in Bodie Leyland, Ryan White Rabbit. I want to say White Rabbit was defenseman of the week like a week ago now that we're recording, so that's kind of cool. He's an Augustana commit. And then Bodie Leyland's a St. Thomas commit. Forgot to mention that. Obviously, there's a bunch of Leylands already at St. Thomas if you follow college hockey. Not a shocker there. And then there was one trade I thought I mentioned, doesn't include a Minnesotan, but there was one trade. Cedar Rapids acquired and drew. Is it Owen Boucher? Do you know? Is that how you say his last name?
I actually don't know how to say it.
Don't know.
This is a tough day for me.
I'm
This is
assuming
a tough day for
I don't know, but he acquired by Cedar Rapids, and Youngstown gets 2 future draft picks. And a little info about him: he's from Michigan. He's a UMass commit. Last I checked, and last year he kind of split between the NAHL and the USHL. So maybe a change of scenery will be good and spark a little bit more with him. We'll see.
Something kind of crazy with that before we move on. He's a like Youngstown through and through type guy. Youngstown's ownership owns Maryland in the NAHL, and that's where he played last year. So he's been with the same owner for that whole time. So kind of weird to see them move on from a guy who's been in their pipeline and in their NAHL team and at their USHL level. But they got hefty draft return for it. I believe a phase 1 and phase 2 fifth, which I don't. It depends on what coaches value and what they're kind of looking for going into the next season. If they think they have a good pipeline, you prefer the higher phase 1 picks or the phase 2 picks. If you think your pipeline's kind of drying out, you prefer the phase 1. So it's a big return, and Boucher hasn't produced a ton for Youngstown, so that might be the reason. And he thinks he's good enough to stay in the USHL, and clearly Cedar Rapids thinks he is too.
Yeah, for sure. So that was the only trade I saw there. A first USHL goal that I don't believe we got on the show last week. Casey Vandertop scored his first USHL goal for Lincoln. I was going to
Woo!
ask if we had any updates at all on any of the Edina guys, because if anyone listened to our show last week, we had kind of a good scoop on like some of the Edina guys are kind of like thinking like, oh, maybe if you went back, then I would think about it. But we don't have anything confirmed, and they could all just not come back. But
Caleb Pitsley
a
was at
lot of
practice
rumors.
today in Madison. That's the one I can confirm. Pitsley's here, not
Pitts is a
and so that eliminates one of them. I don't know if they all go or whatever, but I had eyes on Caleb Pitsley this afternoon.
gotcha. Yeah, and I know too. I wasn't super surprised if he ends up not coming back, just because he's one a lot of those Edina guys that are his age. You know, they've already won the state tournament, so for them, like they've won a title. A lot of them have also won it Kiwi and Bantams already. So they've won a lot, and for Pitsley too, like he's not originally a Minnesotan. So I feel like sometimes when you're those guys that move, maybe it's like you've already won a state title too. So I'm not super surprised if he doesn't come back. But I know we had a couple. I think Tony even mentioned it on Monday Morning Commute that there was like rumblings that maybe some Edina guys could come back, but I'm not sure if any of that will actually happen.
There are so many rumors floating around about who's
Yeah.
going to come back, who's not coming back. The craziest one isn't well. He's attached to the USHL as a part owner of the Fargo Force. Matt Cullen apparently returning. At least Joey's coming back to Moorhead. Matt doesn't play anymore, obviously, so he's got a little more leeway. I don't know if he's flying back and forth between Moorhead and Pittsburgh and Michigan, where Wyatt's playing with the NTDP. But I don't know, man. I don't know anymore. I quit. I quit trying to peg where these kids are going to end up. Thankfully, we have Drew who gets eyes on Caleb Pitsley, because I would have no friggin' idea where Caleb
And
Pitsley was going to end up going.
isn't there rules that they have to be there on Monday? So like, I'm surprised we don't know more because I'm pretty sure
Dude,
they
I
have to
don't
be there
know.
for the first day of practice, if I'm not mistaken, or like have like a reasonable excuse like injury or illness or something, and I'm sure they could fake it or like not even say anything to MSA. Like I'm doubting John Malaya or whoever's in his current role now is going to like Mora Civic Center to check on Mora Malacca. Like
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing they're making the trip up to Ely
No.
to check on to see if somebody's there for the first day of practice. But I'm pretty sure that's like a thing. Like you have to be there for the first day of tryouts or practice or whatever it is. But yeah, it's cool to see Cullen go back. I think this next group of 2010s will be a big impact on the USHL or really wherever they decide to play, whether it's NTDP, CHL, USHL. With Cullen having the stake in Fargo, is Fargo a potential instead of going to the NTDP? It's this next group of 2010s is going to be big, and that phase one draft is bigger than ever too, just with the changing scope of everything. And I do wonder if a bantam draft will come for the USHL eventually, because the bantam draft gets people in your pipeline earlier. They can't play right away, but I know Joey Cullen's a draft pick in the WHL already, right? So it's interesting that we don't have that in place, and I wouldn't be shocked if that comes in the future.
That's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that. I pushed the USHL draft off in my brain until it's time for the phase one draft, so I didn't even entertain the possibility of a bantam style draft. But if you're going to compete with the dub for players, especially Minnesotans and the rest of them that are in the dub's designated United States region, then you might have to drop down to a bantam draft.
For sure. Yeah, and one thing too on stayings and goings I wanted to mention too from last week, because Tony mentioned on Monday Morning Commute that I was saying that Zach Zimmerman was coming back. I do not have an inside scoop on that. Last week when we read it, it got clipped that I said that, but I was reporting something from somebody else on Twitter. So I don't have inside info on that. Just so everyone knows, clear it up. And Tony did tell me, for the record on this podcast, he texted with Zach's dad. And apparently the dad said that the plan was for Zach to stay in Fargo, but I'm not sure how long ago that was. And I always
And
feel like
plans don't change.
if the plan is, then that means there's still uncertainty, maybe a little bit. But I don't know. We'll just have to see, because I saw somebody else on Twitter today post that they thought he was coming back too. So I have no idea. I just wanted to state I do not have an insider.
Line charts this weekend will be a big indicator.
Yeah. So I have no idea on that one. I wanted to say we did know Tyden, but we didn't know Zach for sure. So don't
Okay.
do that this week.
Tyden started playing really loose at a certain point in October. I think 7 games ago, he has 10 points in his last 7 games. You could take a wild guess as to when a certain weight was taken off of his shoulder to go back and play high school hockey.
No, I think we'll figure out who's who and what's what in Moorhead. I take off for Moorhead tomorrow morning. We got the battle for the Blue Ox this weekend. I'm pretty sure we'll find out within 3 hours of being within a mile of the Red River who's going to be around and who's not.
Yeah, and line charts will be a big indicator too this weekend for the USHL teams, because if they're going back to play with their high school team, I'm pretty sure USHL teams will kind of start to try to fill those roles that have been taken, whether it's Carter Ernst in Cedar Rapids, who I saw got named captain of Lakeville South. So I'm going to take a guess you're not naming someone the captain of your team if they're still going to play for Cedar Rapids, right? So I'm interested to see just line charts come out, like Lincoln's for Vandertop you mentioned, or Lincoln's for Pedersen. Just down the line, even if they've said, yeah, I'm going to be here in the league, plans change. I'm not referring to Bergeson when I say this by any means. There have been Caps players that are here at the beginning of the season in my tenure here, so in the past 4 seasons, that say they're going to stick throughout the whole year in the off season because it sounds good to the USHL coaches, whether it's advisors, players, and then they have a change of heart. Whether that's the players not getting the minutes they want, whether that's his buddies back home sending a text, hey, we're all coming back. Like, you have to come. You have to come. It's something that happens, and line charts will be fun to watch because of it. Like early on this year, we only have the one trade, but we'll have some good scoops in the next week, I would assume.
And sometimes it's not even a hockey decision. I would venture to guess that there are situations where a player is planning on sticking around in the USHL, and then all of a sudden, grandpa gets diagnosed with Hodgkin's or something, and it just makes more sense for the family to all kind of circle the wagons where they actually live. So, I mean, there are an insane amount of factors that go into kids deciding, and I can't imagine making that decision at 16 or 17 years old, but everybody in the USHL, the NAL, the Dub, and in high school hockey, I think, are all waiting with bated breath to see who's back and who's not.
Well, a couple that I can confirm, like you guys said, Carter Ernst, he was named a captain for Lakeville South. He is an APX athlete as well, so shout out. But
good plug.
He is confirmed heading back to Lakeville South. Thanks for the graphic logo popped up. He is confirmed heading back to Lakeville South for his senior season. I'm planning on talking with him this week to write something up about him, because he just actually announced his commitment to St. Thomas. Not super surprised, just because now I feel like with APX we have a pretty good group of guys that are Tommies, including Ray Christie, who's on the staff now too. But he committed to St. Thomas. I know he had a really big high school season last year, so he's got to be a candidate for Mr. Hockey this year if he lights it up again. So I'll have something on him. Otherwise, another commitment that I saw, not a Minnesotan, but Jackson Schneider of Waterloo committed to Robert Morris. He's a D. He's from Calgary, though, so not a Minnesotan. But one Stanger going I can also confirm, too, is I have confirmed that Riley Zupfer, who would be with Hill, is staying in Des Moines. So he is not going back to Hill this year. Again, unless there's like a last-minute thing. But from what I heard like a day or two ago, he's staying in Des Moines. One of the big tweets I wanted to talk a little bit about this week, we talked a bit about it on the College Hockey Pod as well, is there was a tweet that came out from a reporter. It's originally in French, so you have to translate the tweet. But it was the USHL that said, or a tweet that said, the junior hockey landscape, I'm quoting it, has changed a lot over the past year, and we could witness a real bombshell if the project discussed in the NHL offices last week comes to fruition. The USHL could join the CHL. And obviously that was a bombshell. A lot of people were commenting on it, retweeting it, and a different reporter actually responded to that tweet, again, also in French, so this is translated, so give or take a few words, that said it was really interesting because there was a recent application by the USHL for the trademark the National Junior Hockey League. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, but clearly something is going on. Whether or not it actually happens, I don't know. Or maybe it's a long shot thing, but clearly people have been talking about some kind of possible merger. I don't know if that means it's close to happening or if it's like just a far off thought of some kind.
They must listen to the podcast last week, or maybe it was
Maybe.
2 weeks ago, where I was diving deep that they shouldn't do NTDP versus the
Yeah,
CHL.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
I think something like this happens if the NHL pushes it to happen. NHL has heavy funding in both the CHL and the USHL. I think that's one of the only ways that this really gets across the finish line, in my opinion. Now, obviously, I'm not the smartest guy in the room by any means when the NHL and commissioners from the CHL and USHL are in the room. By no means am I educated on that. I just wonder if, like, I know the NTDP has hefty funding from the NHL. I know the USHL for developing players has funding from the NHL. The CHL, same sort of thing. So I wonder if that's where that push is coming from. If the NHL is like, hey, we need the USHL to survive throughout all this, and this is a way to do it. Since the playing field's even, that everyone can go to college, we want the playing field to be even for the junior hockey landscape as well. But that would be my guess. If it's happening at NHL headquarters, that would kind of push that direction for me.
I think you're probably closer in your assessment than my original thought was. We could be migrating toward a system, an academy system like they have in Europe for soccer players, where, you know, Manchester United has an academy where they find kids that are younger and then give them the tools to improve within their academy without as much thought as Americans put into how much money can you pay to play for these elite AAA team? How much can you pay for this? How much can you pay for this? The youth sports landscape in America is so money driven that I don't think it's coming from what's the word I'm looking for? From a place of, I don't think it's coming from an academy perspective for the NHL. I think you're probably right in how do we help the USHL maintain some sort of relevance in the junior hockey scene? How do they not lose the one foothold that it already has? I will say that I texted somebody who I would say is very close to the situation, what I would call an insider with the league. And I sent a screenshot of the tweet that we're referring to, and he said, I think the quote and the headline are far ways apart. So I don't think this is by any means a done deal. Obviously, I'm not privy to these conversations, but I would be very surprised to see a merger between the two.
Yeah, and just some other information. Again, I don't know if this is like a soon thing or a far off thing, but in the story, which shout out to this reporter, Kevin Dubé. Again, obviously he's French, so I don't know how to say any of this other stuff, and it's translated. So then a word or two. Yeah. But we talked about this on the college pod, but it said that there was like a major meeting held last week at the NHL offices, and it included executives from the CHL and people from each of those leagues, people from the USHL, from Hockey Canada, and USA Hockey, including NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman and Deputy Bill Daly as well. So it was like a big meeting. It wasn't like just some rando thing. It was like clearly they were talking about something. So clearly something's up. Whether or not we see anything happen in the next few months, I have no idea. But a lot of things are changing, and clearly junior hockey, it's like every week or two there's like new stuff that comes up. So I have no idea. I really don't.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's playing defensive. Like, you're not getting on the offense to make a decision like this. You're making changes, like in the past 2 years at least. It's been making changes to like catch up instead of making decisions to go ahead. And maybe that's something the NHL is just like, no, we're going to make this decision to get ahead of this coming down the line. Because obviously both are big developing leagues for the NHL and for future NHL players. I know that the league had an agreement with the NHL to have better player standards throughout the season. That was a big thing, a declarance of excellence or a declaration of excellence. That was brutal. I talk for a living.
Declarance.
Yeah, declarance. That sounds like the Key and Peele sketch. But the CHL, that NHL, the USHL, I do think something has to come from it eventually. I don't know how much you can continue the arms race at a junior hockey level between the 80, 90 teams or whatever we're at right now between the three. Uh, I think at some point these are all businesses too. So I'm interested to see just what happens over the next 2 years, which I know that's not the answer fans want. I'm sure fans want us to say, yes, this is what's happening, breaking news. But it's almost like we have to play the defensive as these leagues start to change and not try to catch up, but start to get ahead of these sort of things.
One last note on that. You mentioned that they're all businesses. That is another thing fans don't want to hear, is that all of these franchises are businesses. They're not charities. Good luck getting every single franchise owner within all of the CHL and the USHL to be like, yeah, I'll totally sacrifice, half my revenue or half my money for the greater good of hockey. These are businesses. People want to make money on these businesses. So I don't know how quickly they'll find perfect harmony, but for the good of the game, I hope it's soon-ish.
And that's why it has to come from the NHL too, right? Like the NHL can step in and say, "We're going to pull our funding if you don't do this," where
Yeah.
that affects the banks of those teams too. So whether it's that exactly happens where they come together, or there's just some sort of like, "Hey, you don't touch our guys, we don't touch yours," something like that, where it's not written in writing. Written in writing. What else would it be written in, Drew? But but. I don't know. Like I know, for example, there's not a set import rule in the CHL. Like as many in your region in the U.S. can go up, but that's not a thing in the USHL and USA Hockey. You have a set number of imports that you can have. Maybe it's something like that, right? Where you can't have Penticton. I know has a couple of teams. Wenatchee going after a bunch of U.S. players. Maybe that's something where it's like, hey, you can't go after X amount of players.
For sure. Yeah, and just kind of the last chunk of the story, too, I wanted to read just because it's super interesting. So shout out to the guy who wrote this because it's a really interesting story. But it says, too, that, like, clearly the CHL is not going to just accept the USHL, like, for no reason. There's a lot of conditions they have to meet, including, it says, American leagues would have to agree to comply to CHL standards, including budgets, scholarship programs, facilities. Like, there's a lot that would have to, like, get figured out. It's not just, like, they can join and everything's great. Like, there's a lot of stuff that would have to get worked out. And it just says, like, at the end, the last, like, two sentences say, in short, the idea has been launched, the interest is mutual, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and the ball's in the USHL's court. So it sounds like it's probably more of like the future thing because there's a lot of details they have to work out.
I got one more. One more little thing to throw in there.
I have one more after.
Should the leagues all combine? If they could work out some coherent revenue sharing and broadcast rights, that could help make some of these franchises that aren't swimming in money and are using credit cards to do a lot, that could help some of them become whole financially. So some franchises might push for a combined league because they think, oh my God, we're finally going to get some financial relief. I can stop throwing my Amex at hotel people and hoping they don't swipe it right away. It could be a way for some franchises to become whole if they all come together and figure out some revenue sharing, some broadcast rights. And I think the NHL would probably like that too, because then all of their prospects are in one spot for their junior career.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more with what you just said. Like, I think that the deals are different than like the CHL's deal with the NHL is different than the USHL's deal with the NHL.
Yeah.
Like it's blatant. And like the NTDP is a kind of an example of that, right? Like the NTDP plays in our league, but goes across, but they have funding from the NHL. They go to play the CHL. So I'm just interested. The scholarship thing's weird too, because like in America, the scholarship system's so different than it is in the CHL. So I'm wondering if that plays a part too, where we would like the USHL would respond. Why would we put a scholarship program in place? We put development in place where our players can go and get scholarships.
It's a good point.
Well, so we will obviously report back if any other news comes out, but it sounds like that's kind of a long-term thing, but just thought it would be interesting to read out on the show today. But thought I would bring up a couple WHL, CHL, NAL related notes because there's a couple of them, including just like somebody tweeted at the YHH account I know saying the WHL goalie of the month for Penticton, AJ Ryouts. Shout out, we love it. I saw
Pine
somebody.
City, Pine City
Love to
took
see
that guy
it.
to overtime once.
Love to see it.
Was that the guy that was like, what, no love for AJ Rails?
Yeah, and I was like,
Oh
well,
my gosh.
I can't unfortunately keep track of every single junior team because, like we said, there's over 50 CHL teams. I cannot keep track of all of the CHL, USHL, NAHL, NA3 even teams on my feed and all of the Minnesotans because there's probably 1 bajillion in all of them. So there's a lot of them. I know for a while too. I saw Cade de Saint Hubert was on kind of a roll for a little bit for Trail of the BC. So again, I keep saying love to see it, but shout out maybe instead. One Null guy for Watertown that I'm sure our listeners will be familiar with, Junior Podine, currently has 18 points in 13 games for the Watertown Shamrocks of the Null, leading the team in scoring actually. So that's pretty cool to see. And he had a nice overtime game winner for them the other week, and it was one of the Null's top plays of the week. So he's doing really well. He's a Western Michigan commit, which is pretty cool.
Shout out Blake Tyson.
Shout out Blake Tyson, St. Cloud State. Love it. And then another Minnesotan. Peter's like, what? Another
Bro,
Minnesota.
you guys are too much with your St. Cloud State.
Well, we know like all the media people. We got so many.
Got the hookups.
Another Minnesotan guy here who is doing well, the Null Midwest Division second star of the week. I forgot what the title was, but Jackson Ernst. Speaking of Carter Ernst, his brother Jackson, doing pretty well right now in the Null. He had 3 goals and 1 assist for Wisconsin in the Null recently, so he's doing pretty well too, which is cool to see. I don't know if he's talking to any schools right now or not, but currently his stats, he's got 10 points in 15 games for Wisconsin. And last year he played, I believe, before and after the high school season for Lakeville South, and he had 28 points in 27 games for them. So he's obviously doing pretty well in the Null.
Yeah, he struggled before the year with Wisconsin, and after the season, after the high school season, he went back and like tore it up. If I'm not mistaken, like he was almost a point every single night. We tracked him a little bit because he was an affiliate with the Caps at that point, so a little bit of in depth behind the
Nice.
scenes with Ernst there because he was in training camp with us this year. Obviously, a pretty deep roster here, so it's tough to cut sometimes, and like sometimes you're not cutting players that aren't USHL players. There's just not room for them on your given roster. So, I'm glad to see he's tearing it up because he's every time I've seen him skate, he's really he's got something special there. It's just he's finding it now at Wisconsin.
For sure. And then one I wanted to mention because I feel like anytime there's Null goalies, a lot of Null goalie recruits to D1 end up being like super good. I know UMD's had a couple of guys who come out of the Null and then they're like top goalies in the league in Division 1. So I always like to keep an eye on some of these goalies that commit to play D1. And recently one that some people were talking about is this 16-year-old Russian playing in the Null. And he doesn't turn 17 till June. So he's like a fairly fresh 16-year-old in the Null. Came over from Russia this year to play in New Jersey for the Titans. He has a .918 save percentage right now, so doing really well. And he just committed to BU. So kind of a guy that came out of a little bit of nowhere, honestly. Came over to play for the New Jersey Titans, is their starter now with good numbers, and now he's committed to BU. So I always like to see some of those guys. And I imagine if he keeps doing well, he probably will either get called up or will probably get bumped up a league next year because he's posting really good stats as a very young athlete in the Null.
He's listed as 6'4", 163 pounds as a June 09 birth date. Where do the Russians keep finding these giant goalies?
I don't know. That's crazy. How many times do you think you see a player commit to BU that wasn't an NTDP player, wasn't drafted to the USHL, or wasn't in the USHL?
Yes. Yeah. Well, they had, I think last year, I want to say they had a random kind of last minute ad that was a guy from the New Jersey Titans too. So I don't know if they have a connection maybe for
Interesting.
like if they, because last year I want to say they got a guy from the Null who wasn't like a top scorer or anything either. I want to say maybe he was a D. I don't remember, but not like a top guy. So maybe they know somebody who has an in New Jersey that can kind of tell them if they're like, hey, you need to get on this guy right now because maybe it sounds like he's just come over. This guy's come over from Russia and he's making waves. So if you're a Null fan or even USHL because you never know for the years to come, maybe remember his name because it sounds like he's doing pretty well right now and already has a D1 commit after just a couple of games in the Null so far.
Kyle Kim was the player you're talking about, a
Yeah, Kyle
defenseman
Kim.
out
Yeah,
of Seoul, South Korea.
Seoul, South Korea, a traditional hockey hotbed. Seoul,
Yeah.
South Korea.
hey, I know we
That's
say
so
love to see it a
cool.
lot, but I love to see that. That's sweet.
No
Uh,
GPs yet for him yet, though. So
oh, gotcha. Yeah, I think he was kind of a last minute kind of roster ad for their
Okay.
team, but I remember seeing that and going, okay, Null to BU, that's interesting. So maybe they, yeah, New Jersey's got somebody that knows those guys. I don't know.
Yegorov went to BU too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he's there.
Straight
Yeah,
from, I think he went in halfway through from Omaha last
I
year.
think so. Yeah,
Or
yeah,
maybe it's they do trimesters or whatever it is, but he went in halfway through. So maybe BU's got it tight. Maybe they like Russian netminders, and probably a good pot to try to pick from because they've been producing at a pretty high rate overseas there.
for sure.
Not a bad horse to bet on if you're going to bet on Russian goaltenders.
Yeah, maybe too if they're like, well, we got one, you gotta talk to this guy, and you gotta like, if you take your visit here, then you gotta talk to this guy and be like, hey, I'm from a similar place as you. Here's how it's going for me. That's probably a good way to do it, honestly. But I didn't have any other notes for this week. Drew, did you have any other notes on anything or any of our funny/misc comments and or memes around the
Uh,
week?
I don't have anything else like that's actually relevant to people. If people want to actually stay around and have fun, I'm down for that. A lot of this is kind of the fun stuff. We'll go to the Facebook comments. Sid, you sent this one over. 12 unanswered goals since the Morgan Brady fight. He's the MVP of the weekend. Tri-City Storm potential fraud call. Morgan Brady, I'm pretty sure he plays for Waterloo, if I'm not mistaken. Did they have Tri-City last weekend?
I want to say he might be like is he an Arizona State commit? I'll have to look it up. That name rings a bell to me. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, Waterloo. Yep.
Okay, so Waterloo must have had Tri-City, and yeah, they did. So Waterloo took down Tri-City 6-3 and then 6-1. So they were down 3-0. That fight happens. They score the next 12 goals in the series, and Tri-City gets a garbage goal at the end of that one. So 12-1 after the Morgan Brady fight. So I don't know if you say potential fraud Tri-City, or you just say like potential dog in Morgan Brady.
Wow. Well, actually, kind of interesting. I was looking up his Instagram to see if he was still committed to Arizona State, and I believe he is. It's in his bio. But if you look up Morgan Brady, there's also a girls Morgan Brady hockey player. So I was like, oh, there's two Morgan Bradys with two hockey icons in the profile. I was like, maybe one is an old account, and I clicked on it. It's a girls player who plays for Lovell Academy. So it's like, oh, there's double Morgan Brady's in hockey. That's funny. I was like, when that happened, wow, that's cool.
I like that.
But had that, and then I wanted to. This is kind of like a funny thing or meme that I showed the guys before we started recording, and we don't really talk about the NA3, but this also happens to be a Minnesotan, so I just wanted to bring it up because it's funny. And if anyone knows how to say this guy's name, let us know. Wyatt Minehine. Minehen. I don't know how he says
Would
it.
it be Minahan? I honestly don't know.
Minahan. Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
just
sure. But he's from Proctor, Minnesota. He's playing for the Texas Roadrunners of the NA3HL, and currently he's leading the NA3HL in scoring with 79 points through 19 games played. You guys, he's got 45 goals. So that's pretty crazy. And I saw that because he's one of the October stars of the month, because in 10 games this month he had 51 points, which is just ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. So
Yeah,
go ahead, Drew.
I was just gonna say that's a wild stat line. To 50 points in a season's a good season in most leagues that play 60 games.
I was going to add a little bit of context here. He played for Procter Bantam A during the 2020-2021 season. And in 43 games, he had 25 goals and 46 points. So against junior hockey players, he has already almost doubled his point total in less than half the games.
Whoever his skills coach is in the
Oh my
offseason should get a
God.
raise.
It's pretty
Well,
wild.
yeah. So should the teams that are letting him dance around in the offensive zone in the NA3. Oh my gosh, somebody step up and hit this guy.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the roster on Elite Prospects, and I think the only other Minnesotan I can see on the roster is a guy named Hank Garrett, who had said played one season at Eastridge, one at Shattuck, and then is in the NA3. So it's not like a place where all these Minnesotans are going either in Texas. So
College Station.
College Station.
Hey, don't say we didn't. Don't say we don't talk about the NA3. I gave the Austin Ice Bass a shout out earlier in the pod.
Yes, yeah, for
That's
sure.
just we only talk about the South Division of the NA3.
Well, I just saw this because the Vietnam account posted a picture of his Star of the Month photo, and it said, "What does the commish have against this guy? No call up?" Question mark. So somebody give this guy an opportunity because he's tearing it up. But obviously, I don't watch NA3, so I can't give you a scouting report or anything. Although
I
maybe
think that's our homework for this week.
some Granite City Lumberjacks games because those are about 5 minutes from my house probably. But I just saw that actually, and had to mention it.
I'll throw this out there. I'll try to put together a Wyatt. Well, first you're gonna have to send me the name because I have no idea what you were trying to say there or how whatever you were trying to say is spelled. But when you send it my way, I'll try to find some highlights of Wyatt here, and we'll get it rolling because it sounds like he's playing against traffic cones out there, and I don't know what the Rougarou are doing.
The Bayou State Rougarou?
I don't know.
That sounds like the most fun league. I can just see Wyatt right now, and we joked about this a little bit off camera, but he's probably got a fresh new pair of Tecovas boots. He bought his first pair of Wranglers down there in College Station, and he is just wandering sorority row at Texas A&M going, yeah, I'm the leading scorer in the NA3. What's up? Who wants to get called up? Who wants to get called up when you have 80 points in 19 games and you're the king of College Station?
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty sweet life to me.
And then I was looking at the website when it said he was one of the stars of the month. One of the other stars of the month for October in the NA3, Minnesotan Colton Wasson-Gesso. So a couple Minnesotans, you know.
Huge.
Tearing up the NA3. Let's go.
Yeah, I gotta say what you say, Drew. I just gotta say huge now to vary it up and just say, you know.
Huge.
Yeah.
You love to see it.
Yeah, we got a couple of more fun ones from throughout. Sioux City played Sioux City hosted Dubuque on Sunday, I should say. And the Sioux City faithful weren't thrilled that the penalty minute difference was 78-22 in the game. And after the game, they take some pictures of the Dubuque players shaking the hands of the referees. This is common throughout the league, and I'm sure throughout other leagues as well. Just thanking them for what they do. Obviously, you might not agree with everything, but they're out there and could get hurt too. So it's kind of funny on that side. I think 4 players and a coach, or 3 players and a coach, got suspended from this game. I don't know the direct duration of those. I'm sure I could do some deep diving here for it. I'm sure it's on the suspension page, actually. Let's just go there. We're doing a live search here. So, there are a couple suspensions from that game specifically. Max Anderson, a game for head contact. Luke Gary, second misconduct game suspension. Trey Jeffress, a gross misconduct for a TBD number of games.
Oh.
So I don't know if I had heard that there was some talk about a coach potentially too. I don't know if that happened or not, but they had some fun in Sioux City, Iowa this weekend.
Wow. Yeah. Huge.
Jeez.
We'll also move along because this stays in Sioux City, and I believe the same reffing crew. They got put on the kiss cam, so maybe that's why they were maybe
Wow.
maybe that's why they were calling against them. So there's the quick one there. We can't. So if payment
That's pretty
hasn't
funny.
posted. But yeah, so that's a fun one. And then for the video of the week, the Caps have been in Cedar Rapids each of the past 2 Saturdays. So I spent a little bit of time there over the past couple of weeks. But something that they do before every game might be the funniest, but also like the cringiest. While I think it's cool, but like our players are like, what's going on? Because they have to be out there for all of this. They bring their team out to the ice, and before the starting lineup, this video plays.
You guys are probably in some sort of arena right now. And you may call it a stadium or a coliseum, but face it, it's an arena. And there's usually a guy that lives in an arena. And his name is probably Bruce. And Bruce is hungry. He's hungry for victory. Let's beat Bruce. Let's do this for Bruce.
Wow.
So that might be my favorite thing that happens at any USHL game throughout the year. I'll play it without sound for everybody just in case you missed it the first go around. They play a similar video after they score, too. So if you see Cedar Rapids highlights, sometimes they stop right after they score and they cut to this video. But before this video comes on, they're like, "Welcome to the ice, the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders." They all skate around, they go to the bench, and the PA announcer goes, "All right, Rough Riders, are you ready to feed Bruce?" And this is what goes on. So the song's kind of hype, but I
Yeah.
don't know if we need to talk about feeding Bruce and have dancing shirtless Spartans going around for a team that's named after. I would assume it's horses that they're referring to, with that being their logo as well. So much fun, and that's a way to confuse you here on the Junior Hockey Pod.
Wow. This
Peter,
pod
I need your
this pod
thoughts
is
on this
huge.
too.
This pod is huge.
Dude, I had a dog before my wife and I got married. It was my wife, then girlfriend, then fiance's dog. She had a seizure disorder, and I was a witness to the seizure disorder a couple of times. Very scary. That thing was so much worse than the dog seizures. That was terrifying. I don't like that. That's like Blair Rough Rider Project with some weird guy wearing a Viking helmet and he's shirtless and he's got. I agree with you. The song is cool. I could do without
Rough
the
Rider
video.
Project.
That's
Wow.
the Blair Rough Rider Project. I
That's
don't
gotta be
like
the
it.
name of the episode, you guys.
I don't like it.
I can confirm that this is the weirdest thing that I've seen at a USHL arena, at least in-game production-wise from the team. I saw sell the team T-shirts at a game last year, so maybe not the absolute weirdest thing, but that's definitely like the weirdest thing in-game production puts on. But I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. Like, I think it's funny. Like, I don't know. It's definitely unique.
What was
They're
it?
not
What is
feeding
the
Bruce anywhere else.
But what's the impetus for making that video? Like, who just had 30 free minutes and is like, I know a bunch of weird guys that'll stand there in Viking helmets.
You know
who
what's
is
probably
Bruce?
sad?
Why are we feeding Bruce?
Because he likes goals. He likes victory. He lives in the arena. Didn't you listen?
God. No, I was too afraid of the damn Viking helmet guy.
Do we need to watch it again?
No.
Yeah, put it on again. Put it on again. I don't care.
No
I don't
problem.
care.
You guys are probably in some sort of arena.
Project.
See, this is what we're talking about here.
It looks a little bit. It looks like a scene from Midsummer.
It does.
Well, to be honest with you, they probably had this video the entire existence of the team, right? Like, that would make sense. They've been around for 25 years. Like, this looks like it could have been shot 20 years ago.
I need the lore behind who created this monstrosity.
Who created
anyone
Bruce?
If anyone knows.
If anyone knows Bruce's mom and dad, let us know.
Well, I don't have anything
Oh my
else
God.
to do, Drew or Peter, because I think that's a pretty good way to end the show here.
I am mind
Bruce.
bamboozled right now.
Well, we're all bamboozled. It's been a huge episode. The Blair Cedar Rapids Project, or whatever we were calling it. I don't know. That can be the name of the episode. Joey Memes, I'm sure, will clip that in a couple days here. But otherwise, again, thanks to our sponsors, the USHL and APX, for sponsoring the show, letting us do our goofy stuff that we do. But otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in this week. We'll have a new episode next week. And for myself, Sydney Wolf, for Peter Audney and Drew Steele, thanks for tuning in.